Hello and welcome to Mr. C History. Now I'm here at the Battle of Britain Memorial, just outside Folkestone, looking on the English Channel, because today we are of course talking about the Battle of Britain. The Battle of Britain took place in 1940, where Nazi Germany, having just taken France, launched its invasion of Britain, and Britain had to defend itself in its darkest hour. So what are the causes of the Battle of Britain? Well, they're kind of obvious, I suppose. German expansionism. Germany had taken all of Belgium and France super quickly in the blitzkrieg tactics, and Hitler knew he needed to take out the British, the mighty British and the British Empire with their big navy and big air force. Hitler knew that if he could get rid of them, the world was his. He could then take out the Soviet Union and take over the world. So it was Britain's darkest hour. The British Expeditionary Force had been forced off France at Dunkirk. Across the Channel, we were on our own in Europe. Now the fighting took place in three stages. The first stage was all the dogfights between the aircraft out in the Channel there. The second stage was eagle attack, when the Nazis tried to take out British airfields. And then the third one kind of carried on a bit. That was the blitzkrieg, essentially Germany trying to bomb British cities. And that goes on until about 1941. But in reality, the Battle of Britain, the date they say it begins is July the 10th, 1940. By October, Hitler starts to rethink his policy. These are the white cliffs of Dover, and just behind me there in the Channel, in the summer of 1940, this area was known as Hellfire Corner, because there were countless dogfights between British RAF Spitfires and Hawker Hurricanes and German Messerschmitts and Junkers dive bombers. More on those planes later. But they would be out there on the Channel fighting each other. The fighting was fast, it was furious, it was nimble. Lots of physical strain on the pilots, lots of mental strain as well, sort of making split decisions. Who will I go for? What would I do? Many Germans, of course, were captured. Overall, in that summer, about 544 British RAF pilots were killed, but up to 2,500 German Luftwaffe pilots were either killed or captured. Lots of aircraft destroyed. But this was the first stage of the battle, the dogfights in the Channel. I'm at the Royal Air Force Museum in Colindale, North London, and behind me, of course, is a Supermarine Spitfire, one of the key British planes during the Battle of Britain. This is one of the planes that those very skilled RAF pilots that Churchill was talking about, was flying. Now, if you go into the RAF Museum, they've got a large array. You can even have a Spitfire experience, but just outside here, they've got a model. Now, why were they so good? Well, they've got these lovely curved wings, which means they can do some good low-level work, and it meant they were extremely maneuverable, going all over the place, which is important. They also had an extremely powerful Rolls-Royce engine, Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, and quite lightweight, so they could achieve amazing speeds, 408 miles per hour. Now the German planes, of course, had to take off from Europe, fight, and then get back again, so they were full of fuel, quite heavy. Spitfire didn't have that same problem. They took off quite nearby, had a quick fight, and could get back again. So they were much more nimble and faster than the German planes. They also have here at the museum a Hawker Hurricane. Now these must not be forgotten. The Spitfire often gets all the credit and all the fame, but actually the Hawker Hurricane, they were more numerous at the Battle of Britain, and they suffered more losses. And their job was to get the bombers. The Spitfire were taking out the fighters, but it was the bombers, the big German planes ready to drop bombs in Britain. It was these guys, along with the anti-aircraft guns, whose aim was to get them. So perhaps it's these planes that really deserve a lot of the credit. They also have in the museum behind me a Messerschmitt 109, the German Nazi plane. Now I've already talked to you about the problems it had with the fuel, but it's interesting because the Messerschmitt actually outgunned both the Spitfire and the Hurricane, and it could fly higher. You think it could fly higher out of harm's way, but as soon as it came down, rat-a-tat-tat, these guys are on them. 'em. 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 ' But the Spitfire really is wonderful. It becomes a key symbol, a symbol of British resistance, a symbol of ability to fight back. And I think it is not unwarranted. These things really did hold back the Germans. If they were not there, well, it would have been unthinkable what might have possibly happened. But these pilots and these planes managed to hold back that German attack enough for the Germans to eventually give up. And Britain survived. This, of course, is the statue of Winston Churchill here in Parliament Square. And Mr. Churchill made lots of speeches during the Battle of Britain, including one of the most famous ones of them all, on August 20th, 1940, in the House of Commons, where he said, "Never in the field of human conflict has so much been owed by so many to so few." And with this, he immortalised the RAF pilots, the few. So this is a good place to talk about the skill involved with the pilots. The resilience is incredible. Their ability to keep going, to manage this difficult machinery and to face unbelievable conflict all the time. The pilots had to essentially do three things. They had to intercept the enemy, stop the attack. They had to protect infrastructure, protect anything being bombed, and most importantly, they had to maintain air superiority, which was very hard with the barrage of the Luftwaffe coming towards them. Churchill's speech did a lot to recognise the RAF's importance and a huge morale boost for the country. This is London Biggin Hill Airport. Nowadays it's a private airport, but in 1940 it was one of the main airfields for the Battle of Britain. And as I speak, a Spitfire is about to take off. But in 1940 there were lots of airfields in southern England which were coordinating the Battle of Britain, and they were crucial. Indeed, what was very crucial was the turnaround time, between 20 and 30 minutes from when a Hurricane or a Spitfire would come and land. They had to turn around the plane very quickly so it could get back up in the air and fight the Germans. So the skill required to refuel and to arm the guns again and to change over the pilots and to do any maintenance was crucial. So we definitely absolutely put praise on the pilots, but also the ground crew were vital. This was a key part of the Downing system, to keep that motion always going, put the threat to the Germans. These are the Lydd sound mirrors, just in Lydd by Dungeness, Romney Marsh, right in the south of Kent. Now, these weren't actually used in the Battle of Britain. These are predated, 1920s, 1930s. But they are a precursor of something very important. These were used to listen out for planes or attackers coming over the English Channel. They were to reflect sound. And by 1940, this technology had morphed into radar. So this is a very good place to talk about radar and its significance. Now, all along the south coast of England, it was known as the Chain Home Defence System. Specifically, these were radar stations. What they were doing is they were sending out radio waves, and they would blip, blip, blip the sound. If it bounced off an aeroplane coming over the English Channel, that would be a crucial piece of information. We would know that German bombers were coming. That meant that we could scramble the RAF jets, the Spitfires and the Hurricanes. We could scramble them and we could direct those straight forward. This was crucial, and it put Britain at such a big advantage. As we were adopting a defensive position, it meant that we could listen out for these German planes, so we could direct our quite scant resources to the specific place where the attackers were coming from. It meant that we could divert our resources to specific places rather than have to try and cover a huge area. Absolutely vital. And indeed, it is fair to say that it was the radar system which was one of the main reasons why Britain wins the Battle of Britain. We were able to see the Germans coming. I'm outside St Clement Danes Church on the Strand, the RAF church, and I was here before for Bomber Harris for my Bomber Command video. But behind me is a statue of Sir Hugh Downing, Commander-in-Chief of Fighter Command, the man who was in charge of the Royal Air Force during the Battle of Britain. Now, he's celebrated for a couple of reasons. One, of course, is his calm, decisive leadership, vital in such a crisis as the Battle of Britain. The other one is his defensive approach. He was the Gareth Southgate of the Battle of Britain. He said, let the Germans come to us. Why waste men and fuel and equipment going at the Germans? Let them have to fly over the Channel all the way to get to us, and we will rat-a-tat-tat take them out. A brilliant approach at that particular time. Britain needed to defend itself. It had just had Dunkirk, just lost the Battle of France. It needed to adopt a defensive approach, and Hugh Downing took it at the right time. He also developed the Downing system, which is named after him. This was a coordinated approach where all the data that came from the radar and people watching observation posts all went through one central command so that they could direct the resources, the limited resources they had, to attack them, to say, right, they're coming up towards Dover, let's all the Spitfires from Dover go, everyone fly that way. Before it had been a much scattergun approach, nobody knew what was going on. Also with radar, the Downing system was able to get the information whilst the Germans were still flying across the channel. Obviously, as the war progresses, Britain needs to take a more attacking approach in the Air Force, and so he steps aside. But my goodness me, we needed his calm leadership at that time. Behind me is Graveney Marsh on the North Kent coast, and on the evening of the 27th of September 1940, quite an interesting thing within the Battle of Britain took place. Now, this was during the Eagle attack, where the Germans had shifted their focus from the dogfights in the Channel to dropping bombs on airfields and in London. And indeed, on that evening, 27th of September 1940, a Junker bomber plane, which had dropped its load on London, was flying back to Germany across Kent. It had lost its chaperone, so some Spitfires had targeted it, shot its engines, and it had to crash land in the marshland just there. Now the crew, the 4 crew in the plane, the 4 Luftwaffe German pilots, they survived, and they were trying to defend the plane, and they were also trying to furiously destroy some confidential information. But unlucky for them, just by that is a pub there called the Sportsman, and there were 20 Irish Guard soldiers based there. They saw the crash happen and they thought, right, let's go get it. So they quickly rushed out to try and, I don't know, retrieve the plane, get the soldiers, whatever the case may be. But a small skirmish, a battle took place. The Germans fired at them as they came in, so the Irishmen had to go into the ditches. They fired upon the Germans. Indeed, the pilot of the German plane was shot in the foot. Eventually, the Germans surrendered. The Irishmen took the plane. In good Irish fashion, what they did is they took the Germans to the pub, and they had quite a few pints of ale to drink there, but whilst they waited for them to get picked up by military police or something, for them to spend the rest of the war in a prison of war camp. What's interesting, the commander of the Irish Guards found out that there was actually an explosive device on the plane that was going to blow up. So he quickly ran back, grabbed it, threw it into the ditch. It exploded. This is significant because it meant that the Junker survived intact, and the British were able to take it off to Farnborough Airport to be investigated. Crucial intelligence on the matter to find out how the bombers worked. Very, very important. And I suppose that's the significance of this all. But actually, it's got one other really interesting significance. This can claim to be the last battle on British soil. The last time any foreign invaders, Nazi soldiers, engaged in battle with British soldiers took place here, 27th of September 1940. Okay, it's only a battalion of 4 Germans and 20 Irishmen, but I think we can claim it. The last battle on British soil, here at Graveney Marsh. So to summarise, reasons for British victory. Well, better aircraft, pilot skill, radar, the Downing system and all that to command, and just maybe a little bit of luck, and also the German mistakes, the German overcalculation. There are lots of reasons there, but it ends up being a decisive victory for Britain, just. So the consequences of a British victory were pretty significant. Obviously, great morale boost for Britain and its allies, and it's bad for German morale, Nazi morale. Indeed, it was sort of the end of their blitzkrieg. They had marauded their way through Belgium and France, thinking nothing could stop them, but suddenly something did stop them. Fighter command and the British did stop them. And so Hitler had to dither a little bit, and he decided to invade the Soviet Union, head eastwards, and that did not work out well for him. So it was a real strategic failure for Adolf Hitler. It also meant that Britain survived. It was clinging on by its fingertips, but was able to regroup and, along with American help, of course, launch the D-Day invasions in 1944. Well, why is this all so significant then? Well, without Britain winning the Battle of Britain, Nazi Germany would have invaded and taken over Britain and the British Empire, the biggest empire in the world at the time. And could the Soviet Union and the USA clump together and take it back? Possibly. I mean, it's hypotheticals, we'll never know. but it would have been extremely significant. And a lot of the times I sort of poo-poo a few events and sort of say, was it actually as significant as it was? But I do believe that the Battle of Britain, certainly in British history, is incredibly significant and pivotal, maybe also in global history. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that as much as I have. Please don't forget to subscribe, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.